I have the pleasure to be with my dear uncle, Dr. Yusef Ganjavi, Joe.
Yes.
And I wanted to interview him about his fascinating life. And we could do it either in English or Farsi.
We can do it
Or
in English.
both.
We'll do it in English. We'll
Okay.
see how it goes.
Yeah. Just move this here. So where were you born, Uncle Yusuf?
I was born in Tehran
Okay.
in 1301, day 30th of December 1922 in
Okay.
Tehran.
Okay.
You know, my mother and my father had got married, your grandfather. My mother was, I think, 14, and your father and your my father was about 20 or 21, 22. After I was born, about when I was 2, they got divorced.
And you were the first child.
I was the first child. After several years, 2 or 3 years, my father married your grandmother,
Okay.
and they were divorced again.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I'm to say that my father was not such a good man, because he didn't care for me or your father. Actually, he didn't care for any of his children. Anyway, my mother took me to Tabriz, to her parents' relatives. And we were in Tabriz about 7 or 8 years when my father returned to Tabriz because he had lost his job in Tehran, and he married my mother again.
Okay.
After 6 months or so, Feridun was born.
Okay, so Feridun was the second.
Yes, Feridun was the
second
third.
child. Third. Second was
Third.
my father.
Yes, and Feridun was the third.
Mm-hmm.
Then, at that time, we had floods in Tabriz, and my father was afraid of floods, so he left Tabriz. He came to Tehran, and after a month or two, we had a letter that he has got a job in Khuzestan, in Abadan, and he sent us some money for us to go to Abadan. So in the winter of that year, my mother and myself and Feridun, who was only a couple of months old, we went to Abadan. Unfortunately, as much as I had looked to have a father, I couldn't live with him. I had finished 4th class, Ebtidai. He was not prepared to support me. Buy me, you know how in schools they ask you this and that, uniforms, this book, pishahangi and all that. He wasn't prepared to do all that. So I left school from 4th grade. And in those days, the oil company used to run a artisan school, apprentice training school. They trained craftsmen. So I went and I got employed there for 3.5 riyals a day. I was living at home at the same time. After a couple of months, my father said, I have to pay for my living. I was earning 2.5 riyals a day. My father wanted money from me. So I said, instead of giving him the money, I went and lived in a hostel.
How old were you?
I was 15. So in the evenings I went to classes. The daytime I worked in an artisan school. He thought that it will be wonderful if after 5 years I become an artisan and I can get 8 riyals a day. That was his ambition for me.
And you give.
So meanwhile I was at artisan school. They were very pleased with me. They organized special classes for me. And after a couple of years, a technical school was opened there. But I couldn't attend the technical school because I didn't have enough certificates of education. So I went to evening classes. I got my 6th class diploma. Then I could go as a Dabiristan there. So I finished my Dabiristan part in the technical school. I got my diploma in mechanical engineering, and then in electrical engineering, and then there was nothing else to do. I did accountancy as well.
Okay.
Technical school was 2 parts. One part was for people coming to do secondary school and get a diploma and go and work for the oil company. The others were coming from diploma holders to become graduates. There was before the war, there was an agreement with the oil company and the government that they should educate some of the Iranians, and they used to send Iranians who took concours in Tehran, and they sent them to England, to Birmingham University. But during this Second World War, it had stopped. But during towards the end of the Second World War, things are getting easy. They knew that they can travel. So they had a concours. And instead of having it in Tehran, they had it in Abadan.
Oh.
And I took part in that concours, and I won a place to go to university in England.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I went to university in England. I got my BSc, and then I got my MSc, and then while in England, I met a girl, English girl, Jean. She was also a student. When we both got graduated, we got married, and we came to Iran in 1950, beginning of 1950. And the rest of it, you know, probably.
And so going back to Abadan, your mother and father were living together?
My mother and father were living together, but they were never happy.
They were fighting all the time?
They were always fighting. Then there was, after Feridun, Farzaneh was born.
Okay.
After Farzaneh, the twins were born, Ojan and Bijan. And after that, Arjang was born.
Mm-hmm.
But as you know, my father never took any interest or helped them.
What was your father's profession?
My father didn't have really a profession. He had gone to school in Tabriz, and then when he was about probably 18 years old, I don't know, about 16 to 18, my uncle, Ghulam Hussein Khan, which you probably can't remember.
I know the name.
Yes. He wanted to send him overseas to study English.
Mm-hmm.
So my father traveled to go to, I don't know where he was going, but he ended up as far as going to Baghdad. And in those days, Baghdad was under British rule. So he went to school in Baghdad and he learned English. He learned enough English to be able to, have a normal conversation and so forth. And he came back to Iran. And
he was an English teacher.
And yes,
wasn't he?
yes. And then he came to Iran and he got a job with the British Bank of Iran. And he was one of the, I must admit, of course, he was one of the original peoples in Iran that he could speak English properly. Mm-hmm. That's why he was also English teacher here and there. But he worked with that bank. But in 1932, when there was recession in the world, and also in Iran, this bank decided to cut the staff. And my father was one of the ones that he got the sack. That's why he came to Tabriz. And then when he married my mother again.
What about his parents? Were they from Tabriz, both of them?
Oh yes. Unfortunately, I think about my father is that he never had a father or a mother, because both his mother and father were dead before he was 2.
Oh, really?
Yes. He was brought up by his sisters and brother.
They
And
got into an accident or something?
no, I don't know what it was. No, they were in the old days, people
Just
when they were
mortality.
50 or 60, they died because they didn't live long.
Right.
And I think that is why, because he didn't know what a father to be, because he never had a father of his own. That's unfortunately, I feel sorry for him. Although I'm sad that I had him as a father, but at the same time I feel sorry because he never had a father himself.
But you know, on the other hand, for example, my father didn't really have a father.
No, your father is same as me.
And you didn't have one.
No.
But then both of you are great fathers yourself.
Well, that's why.
So-
That's probably why.
Mhm.
That's why. That's the reason. Probably. I don't know.
He must have had good genes, though, your father.
Maybe.
Obviously.
Maybe on mother's side.
Mhm.
Your grandmother was a great woman.
That's
She
true.
loved him as much as it was my mother.
Yeah.
And I respected her. Normally in Iran, of course, because she married my... but I didn't mind. It wasn't her fault. And I admired your grandmother. And I think she also loved me.
Oh, she did, surely.
Hmm.
I loved your mother too.
Yes, my mother was kind to you and your mother and your sister, Shadi, and yes.
She was living with Farzaneh for some time. I
Yes,
remember.
that's right, yes.
So I know
Yeah.
we were neighbors, so we were
Yes.
seeing each other. So you went to Birmingham, studied there, met Jean, and was Sheila born there or?
Sheila, no. Sheila was born in England, of course. When we came to Abadan, Jean and I came to Abadan, and then of course when Jean became pregnant, it was too hot for her, so Jean, I sent her back to England,
Okay.
and Sheila was born in England,
Okay.
but Parvin and John were born in Abadan. By that time we had a better house and more facility, air conditioning and so forth.
Okay.
Yes.
And the other kids were born, your brothers Farzaneh and Ojan and them. They were all born in.
They were all born in
Abadan.
Abadan.
I met Ojan last week. or a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, of course, at his son's wedding.
Yes.
Yes.
So when you went back to Iran, then you started working for the oil.
I
company.
went and worked for the oil company, but after a year, the oil was nationalized in Iran, and then of course the whole thing changed. But I still continued working in the oil company until 1966, and then a gas company was formed in Iran, and they invited me to join the gas company. That's why in 1966 I came to Tehran, and from there on we lived in Tehran.
What did you do for the gas company at that point when you joined them?
I came to the gas company as the head of operations for them. Of course, there was no operations. They were still building the pipeline and so forth. But later on, they built the pipeline, and I was head of operations. And in 1971, I became one of the directors of the company. So when the whole revolution happened, I was I was the operations director for the gas company. I was second man in command for the gas company. And actually, when Khomeini came to Iran and Shah left, I was in England. My wife, Jean, was ill. And after that, as soon as I could, I returned to Iran. I thought it was a good revolution. I came back to Iran. I had nothing to be frightened of. And when I came back to Iran, I found that all the directors are running away and here and
prosecuted.
But I telephoned the Prime Minister. I said, "Here I am." He said, "Carry on." But later on, I found that they appointed new directors and so forth. And they told me I can stay there as an advisor because they had nothing against me. But my wife was ill. I asked them to give me retirement, and I got a retirement in 1979 in summer, and I came to England, hoping. In those days, of course, they were saying every 6 months that everything will be all right. I made a mistake. If I had realized that nothing will happen, I would have gone, and I had contacts all over the world in a technical level.
Right.
I could have got a job with any company. But I wanted to work for Iran. So I didn't get a job. I didn't look for a job. And my contacts were also, in big companies. 2 years is a long time. People change.
Right.
I lost all my contacts. So I haven't done any work since I was 56 years old.
But you still have a network of Shirkat Naft friends, right?
Oh, I have kept as much as possible.
There's like international network.
Yes.
That you guys meet once in.
Oh yes. 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 In Abadan was a sort of international. There were British, Americans, Dutch, French, and so forth. And you know how the foreign nationals, when they get together, they like to organize their own clubs and so forth.
Right.
And there was an amateur dramatic society.
What?
Amateur dramatic society.
Okay.
They used to put up a couple of shows a year, and they used to give the money earned to charity, to church or someone. Because when the revolution happened and all these foreigners had to, and majority of although there were Iranians also in the amateur dramatic society, but majority more were British and Americans. So they left in a hurry, so they didn't have time to send this money to charity. They came to England, and after a year they said, what shall we do with this money? They decided to have a get-together and have a good lunch. They had a good lunch in London, and they decided, well, it's a good idea, let us form an Abadan Society. And they have formed Abadan Society, and Abadan Society, after 30-something years, it still exists. And it's international. They've got Americans, Dutch and French and English members. And in America and in England, they have branches, north of England and south of England. And they meet once or twice a year. They have lunches together. So do we. But every 2 years, they have what they call an international meeting.
Okay.
They meet either in Europe or in America.
Okay.
And next one is in America. Actually, this year in September is in Boston. So the American members organize and they invite the Europeans. They go, and 2 or 3 days they have get together.
Have you been going to these?
I have been. I haven't been recently, but I have been to the one in San Francisco. I've been to one in Scotland. I've been to one in Holland. I've been to one in Ireland. But I haven't been to many of them, because one of the reasons is that, of course, my wife doesn't know them.
Right.
You see, she did. If it was Jean alive, we would have gone to everyone because she would have known them. But Joan doesn't know any of those people.
What kind of illness did Jean have?
Cancer.
What kind of cancer?
Well, it was first, of course, breast cancer, but ended up with bone cancer.
There's no...
She died of bone cancer and there was no cure. Not in those days, probably now.
What about the cause of it? Did they know why she got it?
No, they didn't explain to me, no.
They probably didn't know.
No, they didn't know. Things have changed. This is more than 30 years now.
How old was she when she died?
She was 54.
Okay. She was such a lovely lady.
Very young, yeah. She loved your family.
We loved her too.
Yeah.
We used to go to your house.
I remember you and Shadi dancing at us. 2 little things.
Yes. In fact, we were cleaning up our house in Iran recently, or some of the stuff in the attic, and we found a case of old records, 45
yes.
records, which probably belong to you guys.
Yeah, no, I left a lot of records and tapes, I think, also. For I knew that Shadi was interested in music, and in one of my visits to your house, I left it.
Right.
And of course, I also left a children's encyclopedia for you,
Okay.
John's encyclopedia for you when we left Iran. This is, of course, again 25 or 30 years ago.
Thank you.
You know, when your father was born, of course, my father and your grandmother were divorced already. After a few months, your grandmother sent a message to my father. What about sending us some money to look after Hushank? Who's going to take care of him? You know what my father said? This is what your father told me.
Right.
He said, put him in masjid.
What a irresponsible guy.
What a response. I thought maybe your father has told you that.
No, he hardly ever. I mean, he didn't even have the opportunity.
No,
talk
he
about
told
it.
me.
Yeah.
He told me this.
I'm
When
sure
we
it's
were,
a true story.
when we were talking about our father, he told me this.
Mhm.
I think I first met your father when I was going to England. I hadn't met your father before. And I think he had started university or he was in high school. And I was going to England to study mechanical engineering. And I met him. And I said, Hushank, why don't you study electrical engineering? And I'm doing mechanical engineering, then we can do together some business. Of course, he was wise enough to go and do law. That was the first time I met him. I tried my best because we hadn't grown up together. I tried my best always. The reason why I used to come and stay at your house was to know him more, so that we can, instead of, we hadn't lived together when we were young, so that we can at least know each other when we were older. I know, I tried to know him, but I don't think that I 100% knew him. But I was always glad, and he was so kind to me. He was always kind to me. Of course, he used to come and visit me in Abadan, and as soon as he got married, Shahruz and Hushan came and stayed with us several times in Abadan when they were got married, and I wish he had lived longer so that I could have known him more. Yes.
Well, thank you so much for that beautiful letter you
Yeah,
wrote.
no, it was from my heart.
Shadi read it during the ceremony.
Yes, Shadi. Yes, I've seen it now.
Oh, you saw the video?
Yes, I've seen the
Okay.
video. Yes, I've
Good.
seen the video.
Good.
Yes.
Well, it's really amazing that somebody who didn't have a father, who was effectively who effectively left his house at an early age,
Yeah.
to live in a hostel, making
Yeah.
2 pennies a day.
Yes.
To grow up, get the best degree, become top, have a top position in country's top organization, and then raise such great kids who are, one better than the other. So it's really admirable to see a
Thank
truly
you.
self-made man.
Thank you. Thank you, Reza John. But it is all, of course, I believe in God, and I think because God has compensated me 1,000 times. God has been my father, so I couldn't have better father.
Nevertheless, I really felt I was one with my father.
Yeah, I'm very pleased. I know you said that in your talk. I listened to all your talk. You talked about you and father being one, and you'd emphasized on love. I listened to your talk, and I was very happy to hear it. Yes, it's wonderful. There's nothing more than anything more important than love in the world.
I mean, in some religions, they even talk about love being God.
Yes.
God being love.
Yes. Yes. They say God, love. Love is God. God is love.
This is very powerful.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you.